Hello and welcome. This is the Inferno podcast, episode 18. Today's topic is redemption. So, a lot of people speak of the lessons that we can learn and take from toxic relationships that have ended. And today I want to talk about perhaps a different perspective on this relationship that you may have had, which I call situationship, with a toxic or a narcissistic person. Perhaps there's a bigger picture here that the toxic person crossed paths with you, a chosen one who lives in the heart, one who truly loves, one who has shown forgiveness for actions. So what if perhaps the Creator, the universe, destiny, has this toxic person who's been wounded as a child come into your life for redemption for themselves, for you to show to them unconditional love that they didn't have as a child, for you to show them what it truly means and to express to them what it truly means to be loved unconditionally. And what happens in the toxic situationship is they rebuke that opportunity for redemption, right? They rebuke turning from their toxic ways. The sad part about it is the same thing that a narcissist or sociopath or a toxic person has is a core wound. And so too do the empaths or the chosen ones or whichever label, somebody who's living in their heart center. We both have wounds. And the toxic person chooses to continue to err and to be their deceptive selves, to deny unconditional love that is offered to them. So the one psychologist professor that I learned from says that the toxic narcissist or sociopath is always created in their youth. And we all are, right? We all have the inner child. So they're created in their youth. So it's not something that they are. Creator didn't send them into the planet just being a toxic person. They've been either over-coddled and idolized by the mother, and it's always the mother, even if the father is absent. This professor that I learned from says it's always the mother because there's been some sort of healthy, unhealthy detachment style that was formed in the person when they were a child, and it came from the mother. So instead of redeeming themselves by perhaps learning from somebody who, like in my instance as a wife, instead of this person learning from me true love, true without condition, true empathy, love without conditions, true forgiveness, instead of learning from that, they turn from it and they go back and they revert to that childhood wound. And a lot of times in these toxic people, if you watch and if you observe, the family unit is toxic. And again, as this professor I learned from says, it's always the mother. Even if the father is absent, it is always the mother who creates and then later in adult life enables. Some of these toxic people who use their bodies, who do infidelity, who are cheaters, who are into pornography, were molested as children as well. And instead of seeking redemption for themselves, they become predators. They become cheaters. They become manipulators. They shapeshift. And so a lot of times they'll carry that on and they will rebuke you who may have possibly, just a perspective, been put into their lives to show them a healthy attachment style, a healthy love, a healthy form of forgiveness for them to have the opportunity to redeem themselves. A lot of these psychopaths, narcissists, toxic people cling to the family dynamic that is toxic. And even if it wasn't immediately them, there's sexual perversion, there is molestation. This isn't always, like, there's a scenario. The child could have been idolized by the mother, or parentified, or turned into the little husband. They put this child in an idol position instead of seeking God first. You all right, mommy? Instead of seeking God first, they go to the child and they damage that child by putting them in this godly position, this idling position, this position of, you're a god to me. And it's very damaging. And then there's the other flip side of that, because this professor I learned from says that over coddling, unhealthy detachment style from the mother, idolizing the child is just as bad as abuse, as verbal abuse, loving with conditions. I love you, but. So enabling is very toxic. And so for a wise one as myself, who is definitely healing from my inner child wounds, I was reflecting on this perspective because, like I said, a lot of the community of healing and recovery from narcissistic or toxic abuse tells us what the lessons may have been that we can learn and grow from being in a toxic relationship. But there's always the flip side of that. What if, just what if, God put this person in your life so they would redeem themselves by you mirroring to them unconditional love, forgiveness, showing them authenticity? Because a lot of times as well, the mother, the role model of the mother to the child could be putting a face or a mask on to the world, but a completely different person behind closed doors. And if you think about it, that's what narcissists do. Toxic people do. They shapeshift and adapt and show a different face and play a different character depending on who they are around. So the question, the thought of redemption, because as humans, we're not saviors, right? But there is no coincidence. Whether we've been pulled into the shared fantasy of a narcissist and lived the delusion with them, or whether they've had the opportunity by seeing you as a loving, forgiving person and person who gives them unconditional love, as I did for 12 years. They too could have had an opportunity to redeem themselves and set themselves straight on their path. And it would take a lot of courage for this person who's been very wounded, just like it takes a lot of courage for an empath to face their shadow and do their shadow work. But the difference between the toxic person and the empath type person is we're willing to go down into the depths and face those inner child wounds. And the narcissist or toxic person refuses it. They turn from God. They turn from their inner child. And they continue to play out different roles for different people. And they just skip along to the next person, avoiding all accountability. And really, it's actually very sad because it's a very deep torment. They definitely do hurt and abuse people who come into their lives, who they groom and put on their best foot forward in the beginning to make you fall for them. And in all actuality, they're jealous and envious of you, because in the bigger picture, they don't believe you love them unconditionally because they don't love unconditionally. It's very sad. However, they gravitate always back to the toxicity, and it does start in childhood, and it comes from the mother. Always the mother. So, again, I'm going to do a few Bible verses. And from Proverbs 16:18, pride is something we're talking about here. And the narcissist toxic person's full of pride. They won't sit in self-reflection. They will deny hurting you. They will deny that they're actually, at the end of the day, hurting themselves by avoiding accountability, by doing self-reflection. It's all projection on the outside. Pride is before a crash, and the haughty spirit before stumbling. So what does this mean? Proverbs 16:18. Pride is before a crash. So they are so full of pride. They are so full of themselves. They've been idolized by their mother figure to be a god, to do no wrong. You're my idol. To be taught as a child that enabling was love when it's not. Because you see, when they get in a situationship with you, they have an opportunity for redemption because you show them love, which is unconditional love, but you hold their feet to the fire and you question them. And that is what true love does. Question, communicate, have empathy for, but not losing yourself. So when they come across somebody like you or me who does love them unconditionally, they don't even believe that it's real because they don't feel that within themselves. They've been shown by the mother figure that love is on conditions, and that, come here, my child, I'm an enabling mother, and I won't hold your feet to the fire and hold you accountable. I will enable you. It's very toxic and very damaging. So please do stop the cycle. Pride is before a crash. These people will always crash, whether it be internal depression, suicidal thoughts, alcoholism, escapism, whatever it is, they're going to crash eventually. There's self-sabotage and the haughty spirit before stumbling. So they're going to continue on a cycle of stumbling, trials, tribulations, when they need to turn towards God and stop feeling and acting like they are God. So here's just a really quick quote, and I'm going to use this in reference for myself because I am on the receiving end of this. I am not a perfect person. I love unconditionally, though. I hold myself accountable when I do have error or mistakes, and I try to correct myself. That's the difference as me as an empath. And so I was reflecting out of this as I'm coming out of a 12-year marriage that wasn't real with a toxic person. And this is really what it boils down to for the empath, is to have healthy boundaries so that you don't lose yourself. A real man covers and protects his wife. A real man covers and protects his wife. A weak man talks smack and lies behind her back. A weak man lets her down when she needs him most. A weak man lies and cheats. A weak man runs and slithers away. And a strong man will turn directly to his wife for direction. So just a couple more Bible verses and we will close this up on this episode 18 of Redemption. Matthew 10:36-39. Your worst enemies will be the members of your own family. Those that love their children more than me are not fit to be my disciples. So this is God Creator. Your worst enemies will be the members of your own family. And what do I feel this means? Like feeling into that. Because if you are not in a healthy family dynamic at a young childhood age or now into adult age, and there's toxicity, there's enabling, there's sexual perversion, there's molestation, there's idling, there's a mother who's parentified the child as the little husband or little wife. It's really toxic for the children to do that because it's in a very unhealthy attachment style. Those that love their children more than me. So if you love and idol your children, if you don't get up in the morning and talk to Creator, connect to Creator, if you do not hold your child accountable, they will not as an adult. This is where the toxicity comes in. It's about discipline, and that is love. And I see this in our society so much where children so sadly and innocently are not held accountable. There's no discipline. There's a whole lot of enabling. There's a whole lot of escapism. And then the toxic lineage, which we all have the opportunity to stop the karmic cycle of toxic family units. This is not to say to hate the parent, to hate the child, but it's to hate the spirit of envy, jealousy, enabling, Jezebel energy, and pray for the person. But do not, just like Yeshua did, draw a line in the sand. If your child needs disciplined and corrected, then by all means do it. Proverbs 12:26. The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. So this talks about the company we keep. And I don't care if it's your mother, brother, sister, aunt, co-worker. Know who you are in Christ or Christ consciousness, whichever you prefer. I don't really care what your belief system is. I have my own. But I do know that the truth is the way. It's not my truth, your truth. It's the truth, as Yeshua was here to tell us all. It's about the heart. It's not about the temple out there. It's about the temple here. And if you're real and you're honest and you're authentic, that is taking the path. It seems to be the narrow path in our society, but keep walking it. So the righteous choose their friends carefully. This is about the company we keep. And at the end of the 12-year situation, marriage I was in, this person was hanging out with people that he never hung out with before. He backslid into major consumption of alcohol and ended up in infidelity, lying and betraying and discarding me to go with different company. And I'm telling you, it's not good. We have to caution ourselves and have great discernment on the company that we keep, because we will become who we hang around with the most. And the person and people, whatever this relationship was for you, if we don't have healthy boundaries and we get lost in that, we can become toxic. Psalms 41:9, even my close friend, in quotes, someone I trusted has failed me. I even shared my bread with him. Do we remember who this is from the biblical scripture? Who was Christ talking about? What intuitive hit did Yeshua have to say, I'm here having a meal and breaking bread with one of my disciples that's going to betray me? And it was Judas. So the bottom line is those that are closest to us have the biggest opportunity to hurt us the most. And if you've been in a situationship with somebody who will not redeem themselves and turn from the toxic family unit, not to be mean, but to say, I am ending this karmic cycle, this toxicity of the family lineage today. I'm going to have a reverence and respect for the person I'm with. This person's showing me unconditional love. This person has taught me forgiveness and that you can overcome obstacles with changed behavior. Only with. And I'm going to end it right there. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, yes, we have many lessons to learn from toxic relationships, but what if this toxic person was put into your heart-centered life for redemption, for a chance at redemption? Deep. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to remind everybody out there, you can change this from man or woman, whichever. A real man protects his wife. I hope you enjoyed this episode 18. If you're new today, please do like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when I put more up. This Temptation Inferno podcast has its own playlist here on my channel. I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you food for thought. And until the next time, shalom, shalom.